weather like today?
A little cloudy.
Humid. That is correct. And we knew it would be like that. How did we know that?
My weather app. The news?
The forecast, yeah. But how'd they know?
Science.
That's right. Science known as meteorology. It's a very important science that everyone probably knows a little bit about based on your answers right there. But over the next few minutes, I will tell you some more about the numerous aspects of it because it's very deep. So, define it right now. It's the study of the atmosphere and its effects on the weather. It's known as a subdiscipline, which is just like a part of a larger group of sciences called the atmospheric sciences. And other atmospheric sciences would include climatology and aeronomy, just to name a couple. So the focus of meteorology is on the troposphere, the lowest part of the atmosphere, which is where we live and where most weather occurs. So as a science, it involves some basic scientific principles, as all do. So in the research, the meteorologists just make observations and explanations and develop forecasts based on them, which is what most sciences are about in some way, shape, or form. And there are several different subdisciplines of meteorology, and that the meteorologists and researchers study. And they would include climate modeling, remote sensing, air quality testing, atmospheric physics, and climate change studies, as well as how the atmosphere affects climates, oceans, and living things. And a lot of these different subdisciplines can be used in forecasting, which is what we all mostly look for. So in forecasting, meteorologists predict future states of the atmosphere. Their predictions are made after some research, obviously, and the current conditions of the atmosphere can be recorded and measured by weather stations, weather balloons, satellites, ships, buoys, air vessels, and radar. And some organizations that conduct this research and measurements in the U.S. would include the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA, the Department of Defense, and the Federal Aviation Administration. The data collected with these measurements are processed at different weather centers, and the future states of the atmosphere are modeled by computers. And these methods of data collection are used to predict future weather systems, and they have some pretty interesting science and technology behind them. So let's look at some of the common methods. The first one is radar. And radar involves a radar dish performing as an active sensor that sends out radio waves into the atmosphere that are deflected by particles in the atmosphere and then returned to the radar dish. And the data collected by the dish is processed by a computer, and this computer determines the horizontal dimensions of the particles, which would be like clouds, as an example, and the data, and the speed and direction of their movements. Another method would be by the use of satellites, and as we can see, there's an example of a forecast. There's the forecast for here, over today. It was from a couple days ago. And right here is an example of radar. And this is one from Tennessee. That's a good picture I could find. Here's a satellite. This is one of the first satellites they launched for meteorology, and it's called the TIROS-1, and it's part of a series of satellites called Television and Infrared Observation Satellites, which is what TIROS is an acronym for. And the first one was launched on April 1st of 1960, and what they do is they take pictures of the Earth and relay them back to the ground. They take pictures of Earth's cloud cover, and the pictures are relayed to the Earth, and researchers analyze them. And since they started, the technology has improved vastly, and now satellites record data like atmospheric variables and environmental variables and stuff like atmospheric temperature and moisture profiles. So now that we have a background on the science behind forecasting and how does it affect us. Forecasting a number of benefits to our daily lives and society as a whole. It affects our daily lives so that we understand what the weather's going to be like, and so we can make plans and adjust our schedules accordingly, such as like commutes or vacations or any number of things. And it affects more of like society, and that like businesses, organizations, and individuals can plan and accommodate for inconveniences or even disasters. And examples would include rerouting airlines in the event of some heavy storms, or like a cold front or something like that, which would bring heavy storms. Predicting a hurricane's movement and being properly able to evacuate citizens, and even how to approach a military engagement. So now that you understand it, let's close up as I use that. So now that you know some of the science behind meteorology and its applications in society and our lives, so you can see that's pretty important. And in closing, it's a science that affects everyone, from the meteorologists themselves and the weather reporters whose livelihood is based on the science, as well as everyone else, such as you or I, who plan our daily activities based on what these forecasters and researchers say. And there are weather conditions, so we can avoid, inconveniences. Nobody wants an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience. So it's quite impressive that something that most people would just define as studying weather could have such a profound impact on everyone's lives.